This is interesting. So looking at, I'm looking for the oaths for the councillors, and this is a document that Grant Schnapps has conjured up. It's a statutory instrument, so it's not under a chart. It's not under one of the charters. They don't put it under any of the charters. It's actually through statutory instrument. So that means that everyone in the country's got to do the same. It's not like slightly different for each council. Secretary of State for Communities and Local Governments. Form of declaration. They don't call it an oath. Declaration of... says, having been elected to the office of... Well, it's going to be local council, isn't it? Declare that I take the office upon myself. Well, I don't know how you can do that if there's a policy of selflessness. There is a council. They've actually shown us this. They've shown us. I've seen it. The council policy of selflessness, right? On Colchester Council Watch, they actually showed us the policy for the local councils that they've got to adhere to. It says selflessness, right? Now, I thought that the local councillor oath would be something like the jury, or at least similar to what George Galloway took. But it's not. Firstly, and I think this is going to be the major difference between the council chairman is probably going to take a different oath, because they've got like a commission of the council, and they used to be justices of the peace as well. Even after they'd been mayor or after they'd been a chairman, they could continue serving as justices of the peace afterwards, right? It doesn't seem that is the case now. So let's have a... It says that, and this is Grant Shapps writing this up. Do you actually know who Grant Shapps is? Have you seen him? He's now the Defence Secretary. He was Transport Secretary. He's almost like some kind of character out of Disney or a Ladybird book or something like that. And that's kind of like, it's almost like some character that Jim Carrey might play in a movie, some kind of comedy series, almost like Mr. Bean or Radio Norwich. Mr. Bean or Radio Norwich or something like that. Or I prefer the Weatherman from the Banana Man cartoons. That kind of, or even the Court Jester, but serious. But it's going along those, it's like walking the line of Joker and serious in a way. I can't take anything that Grant Shapps does or says in government seriously. And I proved that in my other video by the logic of how the council are doing things. So it says here, having been elected to the office of, doesn't even say what it is here yet. You've got to put it in. Could be anything. Well, who is this to say what office? Does this act even say what offices are available? Does this act even say what offices there are available? I mean, does this even go for the Mayor of West Yorkshire? Having been elected, so you insert the name, having been elected to the office of councillor of, it doesn't even say what place yet. So, I mean, at least in the charters, it told you what place it was. Declare that I take that office upon myself. Right, okay then, so, all right, selflessness. I said if they've got their self, it can't be selfless if it's off myself, but you're taking the office upon yourself. So that the self that is you and the person is taken upon you. So you are a consciousness, right? You're with an opinion. You're taking upon yourself that office, right? So the actual office, the appointment itself, you absorb it into you. So therefore, the office that you are serving the people with in service to your electorate becomes you. You absorb it, so you lose yourself. I take it upon myself. So you're taking office upon you. So the office that serves the electors is taken upon into your person. Almost, well, you could say possessed, but it's not the nicest term to use. And I will duly and faithfully, well, that is to the public as well, fulfill the duties of it accordingly to the best of my judgment and ability. Well, judgment in a court, a judge makes an order, particularly in Gregory Perrins, when Ian Bray's there, on what the jury verdict says. So it's actually giving judgment. I said they were like Jew rats, didn't I? I told you they were like Jew rats. But they've got a chair who has to put everything through. The chair, like in Parliament, they've got the Speaker. The chair is the equivalent of the Justice of the Peace. They aren't all justices, although they do make judgments. But so it's confirming that it operates like a court with a jury and judge, the chairman of the council. So they're returning judgments, but their office is got to be faithful to the electors, and their judgment is meant to be on behalf of the electors. And also, you don't always necessarily need a vote. If someone needs something, like a bin's broken, right, you don't necessarily need to get a vote on it. If the bin is broken, it's the obligation of the council to maintain it and fix it, right? So as long as you report it and request it, that can be actioned. I think it's made. Those are the duties, right? So for that, your judgment would be to evaluate whether the bin is truly broken and whether it needs fixing, or if it's not broken that much, I suppose. But that's when you resort to the petitions, and you get all the people, or a certain percentage of them, or whatever. It's meant to operate on the will of the electorate, and that's really why the juries are elected. Because they're meant to be, the only thing with the juries now is they're selected at random. They're not actually the people's choice. It's not like, it's meant, it's meant to be, right? It's actually meant to be that the people choose who they trust and who they like and who they want to represent them, right? And then the majority of votes. But now it's all controlled by the political parties. Get you to say, oh, this is our, come on, support our gang, support our party, this is our guy, right? And everyone's going, okay, we'll go along with that. But is it really their guy, You can actually choose. The worst thing is that the political parties are putting these people forward on behalf of the party. It's not actually the people who say, no, actually, it's not actually the true opinion of the people. I think I've been reading some of the logs and records on National Archives, right? And they kept changing. Some of the courts were electing jurats and justices of the peace. And then there's some records saying that, they made a decision off someone found out from one of the earlier charters or from Magna Carta that actually they were wrong, and that they said, all jurats are actually automatically justices of the peace, right? They qualify as them. And then they started change. They stopped electing justices because the Jurats could actually serve as justices. I'm just actually looking into it now. But on one of the charters, the mayor started to, they had it so the mayor, he could propose 3 people, and then everyone voted of which of those. But when the mayor was leaving office, he could select, right, 3 people of his choice. I'm not too sure exactly if they had to be justices or he could select anyone. But at that point, right, this is when they're actually also changing, they're making changes, and this is not with a new charter. They're just like making some decisions being made, and then suddenly, according to this charter or that charter, we've been doing it wrong, and now we're going to be doing it differently, only because of a legal decision that challenged the legality of it. This is the thing with William Penn in that case in London in the Old Bailey, you know, talking about Magna Carta. I actually believe, you know, I actually believe that the Magna Carta actually would make it so that I don't think the mayor could hijack it and nominate 3 people, according to the Magna Carta, because every single person who's turning up at an election to nominate someone and vote can go on their own, the judgment of the peers, right? And the Magna Carta, actually, I think that Magna Carta clause was actually put into a lot of the charters. This is why we need to check. I actually starting to think that as long as that Magna Carta clause is in place now, I think that it does have a statute law precedent over all of the other acts, and I think that when there's a conflict or contradiction, I don't think it's lawful. And it's been proved. I'm now reading stuff now. I'm reading things now where this is what happened. They found out, some of them were doing something wrong, or someone made a decision and then it had to change, but not because the law had changed, because the interpretation had changed or whatever, because they'd made mistakes, right? I can't see, right, and this is, look at Gregory Perrin's case with Ian Bray, and look at some of the Extinction Rebellion cases now when the judges are like that Silius Reed or whatever, he's misguiding the jury and so forth unlawfully, and that's illegal. And this is still happening now. He's saying that they can't, come to a verdict on their pure own opinion, and that's a lie. He's doing that illegally. We've got complaints about this at the moment. I think that it's not just the courts that are doing. We're getting challenges in the courts at the moment over what the jury can and can't do, just like in that Old Bailey plaque. And what I don't think anyone's challenging them on the elections. I don't think anyone's pulled them on it, because usually, firstly, right, people aren't that interested in elections. People don't turn up always to vote, and very few people read the Representation of the People Act or are interested. They only turn up at the polling station. The only people who are interested in it and who read it are the political parties and the candidates and really the people who run it all. But they've been running it to their advantage, and really they've been acting like their own little peer group who are the ones who are informed and in on it. And they've been just going along with it. And I don't think enough of them or any of them have been criticising it or questioning it, right? Because really a lot of them, they're mainly all in with these major political parties. You do get independent candidates, but I don't really think any of the independent candidates have scrutinised the process that much. I think the most of them have just gone along with the process and how do I sign up, and asked how do I get on the ballot and how do I do it. Like this Robert F. Kennedy now is kind of like going, just a minute, this is a bit strange, all these ridiculous rules in different states. How can they do that? I truly believe now that like the juries have been misled in the court. And the only reason that this is all coming out now is because a lot more people are scrutinising it, even aware that it's going on, and even have looked at the rules. If it hadn't have been for Extinction Rebellion drawing attention to the court cases and, like, you know, Jonathan M. Fuller going in there and reporting back, and not like these stupid newspaper reporters who just fill us with a load of tosh, right, for their amusements, right, proper scrutiny, we wouldn't have, like, pulled them on it. I actually starting to think now, and I'll check over again, but the only election clauses in the Bill of Rights is that elections ought to be free. But that doesn't just mean payment, free payment, like a free process that anyone can anyone can stand. But you don't stand, really. Your electors nominate you. You can stand by making a declaration to them, like, oh, I won't mind doing it, you know, because some people might not want to do it. But if that person might be the person that everyone else needs to solve the problems, they can charge them with it and elect them. Now, they might step down and have their own conscience that they blatantly refuse, but if they've been elected, they might not. This is the thing. I'm sure that, I'll check through, just a minute, there's only 4 clauses in Magna Carta still in effect. There's 4 clauses in Magna Carta that are still in effect. So, the question is, does that judgment of the peers in Magna Carta, is that separate from the elections, or does it apply and mean to all manner of judgments, including elections? Because that is the judgment of the peers, really. They're making a judgment on who should be elected. If that Magna Carta Clause 39, or whichever it is, if that if that is applicable to the elections as well as in court judgments, then you do not have to write down the name of who they propose. You can ignore the law. And at the end of the day, right, lawful process, the Representation of the People Act, that's just a law. It's legislation, right? Now, when the thing with the judgments is you've got to use a lawful process, but it's your actual, when you make a decision on it, that is what has to be counted, you know? You can disregard the law when it comes to your opinion. I'm absolutely certain that you don't have to apply the Representation of the People Act, because for the reason I know what the basis is for it. I've seen it all through. In the Local Government Act, when you're petitioning for referendums, they've got a model, but it says you don't have to use that model through the use of enactment, and you can petition for a different model to be used. You can petition for a different set of rules to be used or procedures, right? I'm absolutely certain and convinced now that if you walk into a polling station and you can write down the name of anyone on there, you don't have to comply with the Representation of the People Acts or the other election rules. When it comes down, it is a lawful process they're going through, but your opinion doesn't have to be according to law. It can be according to the facts and circumstances put in front of you. So, like, you know, they've put these people there and they're the people they're proposing, but they're like, just a minute, actually, I don't want to choose any of those people, you know? Otherwise, you might have to vote, you know? Have you ever thought of a jury coming out with a verdict? What happens if it doesn't want to come out with a verdict? It has to come out with a verdict either way. It's almost like saying, because otherwise you would have to turn up to vote. They would make you vote for someone. You wouldn't be able to choose not to vote. You don't have to turn up to vote, you know? If you don't have to turn up to vote for at least one of the nominees, then You know, what happens if none of us turn out to vote? You know, I'm quite certain there's no. I don't. Coming back to this councillor's oath, that there doesn't look to be an allegiance to the king here. There doesn't look to be an allegiance to the king sworn in like an MP. Now, I think the chair of the council, because he's under a commission of the chair of the council, like a judge, he might have to swear an oath, like the mayor, of allegiance. But these councillors, it doesn't seem like they do, if this is the only declaration they make. It doesn't seem like but it's funny they've got the mace in the chamber, you know. They've actually got the mace in the chamber. So that'll be with the chairman of the council. I don't think the Jurats swear an allegiance. We have to swear an allegiance at Cubs and Scouts. You have to swear an allegiance. And it is under a charter for the whole country, and it's a jurisdiction which has to be recognised by the courts. So, some of the police oaths that I've seen, some of them didn't have an oath of allegiance, and some of them did have an oath of allegiance. I think it might have changed over time. But if the councillors aren't swearing an oath of allegiance, or even, there's not even religious, if this is it, if they don't actually have to take the oath, if it's just on paper here, the declaration, I don't actually even think they've got an oath for religion. They haven't even got an oath under religion either. Just says faithfully to the electors. And duties, but that's not to a political party. And even if you were a member of a political party and so forth, some of these political parties have got policies where if you oppose the party, you get thrown out of the party, right? But it's kind of odd, because when they take on this office upon themselves, the council cannot help. The local council also is not supposed to sway the electors either way for a party. So how can a party have control of the council if the council can't affect the outcome of the election and support a political party unless they're a candidate running? I think there's an illusion in here. I'm really annoyed with the Electoral Commission as well. There's some really sketchy stuff going on with all this. I'll try find if there's another oath. So it looks like this. I, having been elected to the office of, declare that I take that office upon myself, and I will duly and faithfully fulfill the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and knowledge and ability. Well, what about the selflessness policy that some councils have got as well? It seems. Let's have a look to see if I can find any other oath. There's definitely no oath there's no religious oath here or for monarch either. This is it. This is all I'm getting back when I'm searching from it for the oath of the councillor. This is Australia, but it looks pretty similar. This is the Australian one, but it's similar to what they've got now. They've actually got an oath of allegiance of the country. I think they got some people to take it, didn't they, when Charles at his coronation? They got all people to take the oath at Charles's coronation. Obviously not republic.org.uk who's turning up shouting, "Not my king." Pledge, I will give my loyalty to the United Kingdom and respect its rights and freedoms. Well, just a minute. If MPs and councillors are taking the oath, how come they're changing the rights? it doesn't say laws and freedoms. It says, I will pledge my loyalty to the United Kingdom and respect its rights and freedoms. I will uphold its democratic values. I will observe its laws faithfully and fulfil my duties and obligations as a British citizen. There's also some discretion between law and rights. What is some law and what are some rights? Some of the laws and some of the rights. The thing with rights is that they're distinctly different from the legislation and laws. In the Bill of Rights, those rights and free speech and freedom of religion and so forth, they are things to do with the conscience, which are distinctly set. What the government aren't allowed to take those things away because it's subverting the rights and liberties. There's an argument to say that anything that is not legislated against is your right, okay? Anything that the law says that anything you can do, which the law doesn't say you can't do, right? You might say that it's your right to do that, but that's not the truth, right? Because where there is no writing and where there is nothing written down that says you can't do something, yes, you are free to do it. That is not written. There are laws that say you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. There are lots of things that you can do that there is nothing written down that you can't do. Those are your freedoms, but those aren't to be interpreted just as, oh, I've got the right to do that. No, where the right is, the right comes in when there is something written down what says that they can't stop you from doing it. Okay? Anything that you can do that where's nothing that says you can't do it, that's a freedom. But where there's a right, there is a law existing that says that no one can stop you from doing it, and the government cannot make a law to stop you from doing it. And that's where the Bill of Rights comes in, and that's where the subversion of the liberties of the realm come in. And when they try to take those rights away or those things, that makes their acts illegal. And that is what I don't think that, Sunak and Patel and Johnson, and they don't really understand that concept. They don't get a grasp of it because they don't think that ministers can break the law. Ministers write the law. Well, that's not true. There are rights. There are laws what say people can do this and you shall not stop them. Kind of like in Magna Carta, when it says that Magna Carta couldn't be edited or changed. There's an argument over that. But there's 4 clauses of it's definitely still in effect. You might say that really it's Magna Carta has to be all of it or nothing. There's an argument for that. I don't know if this particular oath for the country here is the one that they took in front of Charles, because I think some of them took an allegiance. I don't know what that effect does for the whole citizens, but it's a different oath to the Privy Council, what you take in Cub Scouts, because that's under a particular charter, and you can actually work with different authorities of the government. It's meant to be recognised by the courts. I don't think that oath that you take if you rock up at Charles's coronation and you stand there and take the oath there and then, I don't particularly think that that's under a charter that the courts have to recognise. I think it's just kind of like your own citizens' pledge. But we get given all the rights. You can use the courts, complaints, Judicial Conduct Office, all these different facilities. We've got the police. We've got rights to all manner of different things. I don't think that this I will give my loyalty to the United Kingdom and respect its rights and freedoms. I will uphold its democratic values. I will observe its laws faithfully and fulfill my duties and obligations as a British citizen. There's no duty to God or anything like that on there either. That says that that's the oath of allegiance. What is the oath of MP? I, having been elected for nominated of the House of People. This is not what George Galloway said, these words. Swear in name of God solemn. It says God solemnly affirm who will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of India. What the hell? This is India. As by law established, I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of India. That I will. What the hell? That's not the right one. There's definitely a lack of religious integrity of the councillors. For some strange reason, they don't take. Doesn't look like the councillors actually. I've got an oath of allegiance, but why? Also, maybe they can. Maybe if they're meant to serve their. I wonder if that's why the jury don't take the oath of allegiance, because if the jury would take an oath of allegiance to the king, then they would be doing what the king says, not their own conscience as an individual citizen. And maybe the councillors aren't told what to do by the king. They're meant to represent the conscience of the electors, and it is only the chair of the council which applies the laws in allegiance to the legislation, like the judge. I think that's probably what it comes down to. So, I think the Cub Scout oath is quite different in being under that charter of the Privy Council, and it definitely is different. It most definitely is different. But it also has to be recognised by the courts. It's got a legal obligation of recognition, which is very, very much different to the councillors. Because the councillors are actually following what the electors do and vote on and say. This is kind of different.